What is going on, college football fans? Rixon Lane here with you. It is the end of 2012, and we are preparing for the bowl games on December 31st and New Year's Day. South Carolina and Clemson, two teams from the Palmetto State, both playing back-to-back days. Clemson playing December 31st against LSU in the Chick-Fil-A Bowl. South Carolina playing against Michigan on New Year's Day in the Outback Bowl. And since we've got two teams from South Carolina playing so close together, we're going to go ahead and break both of those games down for you, starting with the Chick-fil-A Bowl. Clemson going up against the LSU Tigers in Atlanta in the Georgia Dome. A game where you've got strength versus strength as far as Clemson's offense scoring about 40 points a game. They've been very explosive this year at times, going up against an LSU defense that is averaging only giving up about 15 points per game. So something's got to give as far as these two teams are concerned. Clemson offensively, you know all the weapons. Taj Boyd at quarterback having his best season as a Clemson Tiger. Sammy Watkins for Clemson, he's been kind of quiet this year. Hasn't nearly put up the numbers he did in his sensational freshman season. But Clemson saying they're really going to unleash him in this game and make him a bigger part of the offense. But with the emergence of guys like Andre Ellington and Nuke Hopkins for Clemson, haven't really missed Watkins as far as productivity is concerned. And for LSU defensively, just a nasty front seven led by their big-time defensive linemen in Barkevious Mingo and Sam Montgomery. This is a game where if Clemson wants to have an opportunity to win this game, they are going to have to find a way to not only put up points, which they've been able to do this year, albeit against slightly inferior competition, but they're going to have to find a way to keep their defense from staying on the field all game long. The problem with the way that Clemson has played in some of these games, especially when you look at the big two teams they've played this year, you look at the games against Florida State and the games against South Carolina. Their offense put up numbers against Florida State. South Carolina held their offense in check for the last three quarters of that ball game, but they've been able to put up numbers in a lot of games this year. The problem is their defense has just not been able to match the productivity of their offense, and as a result, they've been playing in a lot of close ball games that probably shouldn't have been as close as they were. A game that jumps to mind is the NC State game, where Clemson put up monster numbers offensively, and yet when you looked up, it was still a relatively close ball game all the way to the end because the Clemson defense couldn't find a way to stop NC State. Against LSU, a team that Les Miles has conditioned them to just pound the ball and just wear down defenses. They have a stable of running backs led by a Jeremy Ware, a guy who came into the year as the number 3 running back for LSU and ends up leading the team in all the rushing totals. Clemson's got to find a way to slow down LSU's offense. The first year for Clemson's defense under new defensive coordinator Brent Venables, they haven't improved in leaps and bounds as far as the numbers this season. They're going to have to really step it up in this game if they're going to have a chance to win. Now, if Clemson can find a way to stop LSU, then they're going to be in a good situation because Zach Mettenberger, the quarterback for LSU, has not been very good this year. He's been up and down all throughout the season. If LSU has to rely on Zach Mettenberger to make plays to help them win this ballgame, then Clemson is going to be in a great spot as far as their chances to come up with a victory. The key in this game for Clemson is the offense has to find a way to neutralize the athletic ability of the LSU defensive line. The Clemson offensive line, the last time we saw them, they were terrorized by the front four of South Carolina, especially Jadeveon Clowney. Barkevious Mingo and Sam Montgomery are two elite defensive players in college football. Clemson has got to find a way to keep them from wreaking havoc on Taj Boyd all night long. If they can find a way to do that, then they're going to be in a good spot. The other key for Clemson, Chad Morris loves the no huddle. He loves the hurry-up offense. They've had success with it. But against a team like LSU, a team that's conditioned to just wear you down, the Clemson offense has got to rein it back a little bit and realize that the longer they can stay on the field, the longer their defense is able to rest, the longer they're able to make adjustments, and the more they're going to keep LSU from just pounding on them all night long. Because The Clemson defense is going to be in for probably the most physical game they've played all year because LSU, there's nothing fancy about them. There's no secrets. They just lined it up and run it straight ahead, and that's what they're going to do and see if Clemson is physical enough to stop them. If Clemson tries to turn this game into a track meet, they're not going to be able to do it because LSU is not interested in playing that sort of game. They're going to go just slow, methodically down the field, and that's the way they're going to do it all night long. Even if Clemson gets out to an early lead, remember, they did that against both Florida State and South Carolina. They had early leads. The key for Clemson, too, is if they end up trailing at some point during this game, they cannot abandon the running game. They've done it against Florida State and South Carolina. Chad Morris panicked when Clemson got down against those two teams, and they completely went away from a rushing attack that was fairly effective in both those ball games. They cannot do that. They have to maintain offensive balance and stay on the field. 4 or 5 play drives aren't going to be enough. They need to be on the field 7, 8, 9 plays, allow their defense to rest and recuperate and get ready to go back on the field. If tendencies play out for both these two teams, this is a game that LSU could put away in the third quarter and the fourth quarter simply because Clemson's defense hasn't shown this year that they're physical enough to stop a team like LSU, and Clemson's offense against the upper echelon defenses they've played this year, they have not put up the numbers that they have against ACC competition. Is Clemson comparable in talent to LSU? They probably are. They're probably nearly the same level of talent as LSU, but just the two tendencies and the way these two teams play football, this is a game that LSU could really get out and get a big lead late in the third quarter, early in the fourth quarter, unless Clemson adapts their strategy and comes up with a way to keep their defense off the field and to keep LSU from just imposing their will physically. Put the pick out on Twitter earlier this morning. I have LSU winning this game 41-17. Do I think that Clemson is really 24 points worse than LSU? Not at all. I think Clemson and LSU are two pretty evenly matched teams when it comes to athletic ability. But the way that they both play football lends itself to the possibility of LSU getting a big win in this game. We'll see how it goes in Atlanta. Moving further down south to Tampa, Florida, where the Outback Bowl is being held, South Carolina is taking on Michigan. The big story for the Gamecocks is the fact that Connor Shaw is going to start this game. He missed the Clemson game, didn't play a snap after suffering a foot injury against Wofford. Dylan Thompson came in that game, played very well, threw some passes that probably should have been intercepted against a better defense, probably would have been intercepted. But Dylan Thompson led the Gamecocks to a victory. And the story coming out of South Carolina this week is that Connor Shaw is going to get the start, but Dylan Thompson is going to play in this game. Now, the trick for South Carolina, and this is something that Steve Spurrier has been known to do throughout his career, he did it a lot in his early years with the Gamecocks, is he has been known to have a very quick hook with quarterbacks all throughout his career. If a quarterback is struggling, Steve Spurrier typically does not hesitate to pull him out and put a backup in. Now, earlier in this year, in games where Connor Shaw maybe wasn't at his best, Steve Spurrier didn't insert Dylan Thompson because Dylan had just one start against East Carolina. And granted, he put up great numbers, threw for over 300 yards, but it was against a very, very bad defensive team. Now that South Carolina knows that Dylan Thompson can go into a big game, like a rivalry game against Clemson on the road, and lead South Carolina to a victory and play very effectively in that game, their confidence in Dylan Thompson has to be sky high, and if Connor Shaw struggles, having had so much time off, don't be surprised if Steve Spurrier pulls him out early and puts Dylan Thompson in. They've said that both are going to play, Shaw will start, Thompson will play, and whoever plays the best, they're going to ride them to the end and see if they can pull out the victory. Now, the key is Steve Spurrier can't get impatient and fidgety with both his quarterbacks and simply go back and forth every couple of series. It messes up the offensive rhythm, messes up the quarterback's confidence. That's something that South Carolina cannot do. So the Gamecocks are going to have to trust that both their quarterbacks, when they're in there, can play effectively, and whoever they ride with, that they are able to lead South Carolina's offense and run the offense the way Steve Spurrier wants it to be run. For the Michigan Wolverines, obviously the big man for them is Denard Robinson. The quarterback, he hasn't played quarterback in a while, was injured earlier in the year, has not been a great quarterback as far as throwing the ball around, but he's incredibly dangerous when he is able to scramble out and make plays with his feet. However, he is probably going up against the best defense that Michigan has faced all year in terms of athletic ability and players that can match him in the open field. And don't be surprised in this game if South Carolina employs the spy technique, maybe using a guy like Shaq Wilson or somebody like that to stay with Denard Robinson and shadow him all over the field. Also, in terms of the front four for South Carolina, they dominated the game against Clemson. Jadeveon Clowney in the second half against Clemson, defensive coordinator Lorenzo Ward, he moved him all over the front four, had him inside on some plays, outside on some other plays, so Clemson didn't know where he was going to come from. It worked incredibly effectively. He had 5.5 sacks in that game. If Jadeveon Clowney is put all over the defensive line again, it'll be interesting to see how Michigan reacts to that, not knowing if he's going to come off the corner every play or if he's going to line up maybe at nose guard or inside defensive tackle or switch ends on the defensive line. So it'll be interesting to see how Michigan counters the possibility of Jadeveon Clowney moving all over the field. Offensively for South Carolina, you know the playmakers, Kenny Miles and Mike Davis at tailback. They've both shown themselves to be very capable replacements now that Marcus Lattimore is no longer with the team. You also have the speedy wide receivers, the short guys out in the open field, guys like Ace Sanders, Damiere Byrd, and players of that nature. South Carolina's going to run their offense the way they've done all year long. They're going to try to get the ball to those guys out in space. They're going to give the ball up the middle and off tackle with Miles and Davis and see how Michigan can stop them. Michigan hasn't been a fantastic defense, but they've certainly improved under Brady Hoke. Defensively for the Gamecocks, they're going to have to prepare for Denard Robinson playing in several different places. Brady Hoke, Michigan's coach, has been playing it very close to the vest as far as how they're going to use Denard Robinson. You could see him at running back. He's played that position some this year. Definitely expect to see him at quarterback. They've also reported that Michigan has been practicing with Denard Robinson on some return teams, on some special teams. They're going to try to make this guy as big a part of the game plan as possible because he is their most talented player as far as athletic ability and just breakaway ability and able to really change a game in just one or two plays. South Carolina probably isn't going to put up a ton of points against Michigan. That hasn't been their MO all year. They don't put up monster loads of points the way Clemson's offense has done. However, if they run their game plan effectively, it's very hard to stop. Steve Spurrier is still one of the best in college football as far as calling plays and running the offense. If South Carolina gets effective quarterback play from Shaw and Thompson, and their defense is able to not let Denard Robinson take over the game, if they're able to corral him and limit the big plays, he's going to get his yards, he's going to get his plays, but you have to limit the big breakaway play, the big momentum swinging play from Denard Robinson. If South Carolina can do that, they should have a great opportunity to win this game. Got South Carolina winning that game by about 10 points. Should be very exciting, but I believe that if the Gamecocks execute the way they've done throughout the year, they will have a great chance to win this game and get their 11th win on the season. Going to be two great games. Clemson, again, playing LSU in the Chick-Fil-A Bowl December 31st tonight in Atlanta. South Carolina playing tomorrow on New Year's Day, 1 o'clock kickoff in Raymond James Stadium at the Outback Bowl. We'll be live tweeting both those games. At Fastlane Sports is the Twitter handle. You can follow us there, send your questions, comments, whatever. Great to hear from you. Thanks for watching this. Enjoy your college football bowl games and have a great new year.